I signed my first lease of my first ever salon the week before September 11th. Right. What you can execute and how you treat people matter.
And a lot of owners end up at the operator role and just stuck there because they don't know how to get themselves out of that.
Right. Because I felt like if you do all the right things, the money will follow you.
We don't like titles, we call ourselves the leadership team.
Yeah. You have to enjoy the moment and where you're at and look at what you have versus looking at all these other things. That was the one time I realized how much impact or influence we had as hairdressers with our client.
Like we see something that's so unachievable and it's an obstacle, and then all of a sudden you do it and you go, oh, that wasn't so hard.
Yeah. You know, the skill set is gonna be the number one thing that's gonna attract your audience or your people to you.
I Googled what are the top leadership coaches in the world, and I just started calling every single one of them, and 2 of them picked up.
Don't forget why you started your business.
Welcome to The Positive Effect. I'm so excited to basically host Phillip Rosado on our second episode of The Positive Effect.
Oh, this is only the second one?
It's only the second episode.
Wow.
Phillip. Yeah, I'm so excited. I brought it back.
Amazing.
I had a hiatus for 2 years.
Yes.
So now we're bringing it back in video format, but super excited to have you here today.
Thank you,
All the way in Miami in my home.
I know, excited to be here. We've talked so much and finally we are in the same city, in the same room, reconnected, able to kind of just go for it.
Catch up. So for our audience, introduce who you are, what you do, like give us your story, because I met you at the L'Oreal Pro Lab in LA doing some training a couple of years ago, and I've been watching all of your work, and I just would love you to introduce yourself.
Well, what's up everybody? My name is Phillip Rosado. I'm a salon owner. I'm a L'Oreal Pro artist, which means I travel the world teaching salons this program that I created called The Reset. I'm a father of 3 girls. My wife's name's Alicia Rosado, and her and I own Edu Salon in Orlando, Florida.
Okay, amazing. And you are an author.
Yeah. I always forget. I'm an author,
And so we're going to get into running a small business, the challenges of that, building a team and positivity and all of that stuff.
Yes.
But what made you write this book, and when did you write it?
Oh man, that's a great question. I've been doing hair for 31 years. When I was very young, there was no internet. I was doing hair before the internet. So you had to go either to New York, London, Los Angeles to get the right training. So back then, I always felt lost and I didn't have a good mentor. So I was always going to different cities and academies to find that. But as far as like the book, so I've always been in education very early on in my career, and I felt it was important after so many years of teaching to give something to my community that I felt is gonna outlast like myself, is gonna really impact the industry, the community, the beauty community, in a way that it's gonna really be able to impact people personally and professionally forever. Okay. You know, I felt like, you know, there was a little bit of a disconnect a few years ago with just hairstylists and their clients, and there was a little bit of friction I was seeing, and this was in 2017.
Okay.
Is when I kind of really started developing this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 16, 17, around then, because Alicia was pregnant, and I remember her and I were in the car, and I was saying all this stuff. We had just came from a Tony Robbins conference.
Okay.
And my mind was on fire, and I was like, blah, 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 we just going at it. And then before we got to Orlando, she's like, all right, here's your new program that you just wrote. And that was the reset itself for the salons.
Okay.
So I taught I did it a couple times in our salon in Orlando, and then I kind of piloted it in a couple friends' salons that were influencers that were gaining a lot of traction. Yeah. And because they were influencers, a lot of eyes got on it very early, and then that's what kind of made it take off. But really, after 2020, it really went poof.
Well, yeah, because COVID, mental health, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And the reset is really about resetting your mind in between clients.
Right, that's the core.
Right, and the art of protecting your happiness, which is really interesting, because I was talking to somebody yesterday. I was telling them that you were coming down here and that I was excited about having you on the show. And I was explaining to them, and I asked each one of them, don't you tell your hairstylist everything? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, have you ever thought about what they do with that? And they were like, no. And I was like, right. I was like, that's why you teach the art of happiness.
Yeah,
because I think we forget that in the service industry, right? What stylists go through.
Exactly, and it's never spoken about in hair school. It's spoken about in any salon, in any training program, in any company. It doesn't matter what brand it is. It's that connection with humans that it's just such a powerful thing that clients have, and it kind of really got a lot of like the mental awareness started happening. I think after 2020, and then what the effects of that on hairstylists.
Right.
You know what I mean? After that, I think there was a little bit of a rebalancing with it. But yeah, I started this program 2016-ish, 2017. But the book, it took me 3 years to write it because I'm not a writer.
Okay.
so it took me a long time to get my ideas organized, hire the right people to help support me in that. And then finally I got it to the point where I'm like, and as you know, I mean, there's a lot of vulnerability that comes with your words being written, because there's always going to be like the haters out there. They're going to hate, and then they're going to, even in the book, there's a Taylor Swift quote, like, haters going to hate, you just got to brush it off.
Right.
So for me, I think it was just a point where I just had to write my word, my vision down, and just put it out there. And it is what it is. I know that I'm not a writer by heart, by trade, but by heart, I had to leave this this message to be able to impact my team, my community, and everybody that's around me.
It's funny that you say I'm not a writer, but you have a book, right? Like,
right.
Angie, my business partner, the question I always used to say to her is, when do I call myself an author? And she's like, as soon as you have a book published.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have so much going on. So, like, let's jump into just being a business owner, right? Like, being a business owner and starting a salon, and then, I heard all the story about when you moved the salon, but like small business owners, just kudos to all of you, because it's such a challenge, and you've been through a lot, but you've had your salon for how long? So walk us through that story.
So our current salon, we opened in June of 2012.
Right.
And I didn't necessarily want to open another salon. I had started my first ever salon when I was 26. And for me, that was with my ex-wife. And I was just like, I felt I didn't want to do another salon after dealing with that. And I was like, I took a little bit of break, but it was my calling. And I started very young. So I signed my first lease of my first ever salon the week before September 11th.
Wow.
And that impacted me because it showed me, I think that gave me the grit I needed to survive, right? So I went through that like monumental hurdle, then through the financial crisis, because we got impacted a lot in Florida, and especially in Central Florida. 2008, 2009, that was brutal. So I've been through that, and then 2020, right? So those three major things, and still being business and being operational at the same time, had given me a lot of faith in my own like drive and passion for what we did. And I believe if you didn't go through those fires, I wouldn't be able to sustain the constant barrage of fires that we always get as a small business.
Right.
It's never, everybody thinks it's all la la land and funny games, but it's really not. It's people ask me, what do you do? I'm like, man, I'm a firefighter, I'm a janitor, I'm an electrician, I do all kinds of stuff, not just hair.
Right.
And then on top of that, you have the social media element. And then on top of that, you have, the other outlying factors, So if you're open and you're a small business right now, being really flexible was huge for us, and adaptable to the current times in the market, but
Yeah.
really being, real to our brand,
Yeah.
And I think that's really has guided us because our brand is education.
It's education. I
Yeah.
mean, when I went there and I saw the back room and the board with all the recognition and the quote that you have when you come out of your break area, and that's really unusual to see that in a salon environment.
Yeah.
So training, obviously, education is really important to you.
Right.
Right. So, and your team, you can feel it when you walk into the salon.
Yeah.
So do you think that leadership training, obviously you do, but leadership has a big impact on that?
Yeah, I mean, leadership is interesting because for me, I've always tried to lead by example. And I never tried to make anyone do the things that I wouldn't do. But always very simple, like treat people how you want to be treated. Very kind, very nice, just very professional. I try not to put too much parameters on my team. I really allow them to be artists with a strong educational background. I think really supports that. And that's kind of our formula when it comes to the salon business. There's no secret, it takes a lot of work. You don't have a day off, but the education is nonstop.
Right.
So that's why we are aligned with L'Oreal, because they have great educators, they have great branding, they have great products. They're always innovation forward.
Yeah.
And for us, that's really important on how we can always have top line products for our team to execute the most latest and greatest techniques.
What's some of the biggest mistakes you see salon owners make when they open a salon, or maybe when they've had an existing salon or things aren't going
biggest
well?
Mistakes? Oh man, there's a lot. There's a lot, but
Is there a common theme?
Well, I think let me have a think on that, because there's so many different things, but I think the assumption of granite countertops is gonna give you high professionalism or like that elevated service. It's not the thing, right? You can buy the best chairs and the best waiting areas and the best, but if you don't have all these other elements that are foundational to a true business, and none of that matters.
Right.
I learned that because I work with a lot of famous people, and usually I'm doing their hair in bathrooms.
Right.
And they're dark. So the worst lighting, bathrooms, doesn't smell well, so people get so wrapped up with the way the image of this looks, and let me get the best, and none of that ultimately matters. What you can execute and how you treat people matter.
I used to say that when the buyers would send us all of these collections and everything, and laying it out and making the store look a certain way. They were obsessed with it. Literally, when I worked at Gap back in the day, they were obsessed. They'd walk through and measure everything, and I'd be like, at the end of the day, if the team in the store isn't friendly, isn't knowledgeable, doesn't know how to engage with people, doesn't, is complaining about everything, and then the customers hear that.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
You can make a store look great, but if the team is not engaged and not friendly and happy, it's going to spill into every experience in the store. I was just in Whole Foods the other day here, and an upset employee was vocalizing it, really loud at the cash desk in front of everybody, and I was like, that's just not good.
That's
not good for business. So what do you do to keep people motivated and happy?
We have a lot of conversations. We try to always have good music. I think that music is always important. I think the vibe, energy of the location is important, of the team, understanding that. Yes, I love quick, powwows of 1 minute manager type of things. I love that. Because I'm not there all the time, because I'm traveling so much, that when I'm there, I try to touch everyone as far as touching in, how are you doing, how's everything going. I don't specifically ask, how's your hair work doing? I ask, how are you doing?
Okay.
How are you feeling? How's everything? How was your weekend? I heard you weren't feeling well, or I heard you had a birthday. I kind of do things like that because I think it sends a message to them that I care, and it builds trust. Yeah. But that's kind of my strategy.
Yeah.
From
And do
the
you have
beginning.
managers that work for you in the salon? So how do you make sure those managers are equipped and able to do what you do? Because you're the owner, you're like
Right.
the big energy, right? Alicia too, right?
Right, yeah.
You guys are the owners. So
Yeah.
how do you equip managers? Because I'm talking
Yeah.
about this idea of, for small business owners,
Right.
going from operator to owner. And from operator, right, you're in the midst of everything. And now you're moving up to manager, which means now you're managing a team, so you're
Right.
growing. And then you move to leader, and when you're a leader, you're managing managers.
Right.
And then once you get leaders in place, like managing all areas, now you become an owner. That's when you can take a week off and hopefully nothing falls apart.
Right.
Right? And that's
Yeah.
the desire, right?
That's the
When you
hope.
open your own business, you want to be able to have more freedom, to take that
Yes.
time off. And a lot of owners I see end up at the operator role and just stuck there
Right.
because they don't know how to get themselves out of that.
Right.
So how
Yeah.
do you do that?
Well, we try to empower our management team. We had multiple variations of that.
Right.
Currently, we just have a salon operations manager.
Okay.
Alicia is like the general manager, CEO-ish,
Yeah.
CFO. We try to peg me as the founder, CEO. Like we don't, but we kind of don't like titles neither. We just
Okay.
are there, like we call ourselves like the leadership team, but
Oh, I love
everybody
that.
knows it's us.
Yeah. But that's pretty key,
Yeah.
what you just said. We don't like titles, we call ourselves the leadership team.
Yes, yes.
Right? Which,
Yeah.
if you're working in that environment, that's very positive.
Yeah.
Because I always say if you get titles out the way, it lowers resistance to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So we don't like titles. I mean, we have it just because we kind of have to see who does what where and who's responsible for what. But we just try to have a ton of communication, a ton of text messaging, following up on certain things, making sure our team knows what we need to achieve and our ultimate goals, you know.
Right.
And it's funny because for me, I started doing this and I've never been money driven. It's not about the money because I felt like if you do all the right things, the money will follow you.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of run the business like that.
Right.
You know, I don't know if that's smart, but that's the way I've done it.
When I ran 300 stores, nobody would know this, but I hardly ever looked at the sales reports.
Really?
Like if I had to like get ready for a meeting or look at the end of the week, I'd look at, you know, the top line and the profit line, but I wouldn't sit there studying it every
Yeah,
day.
seeing
I
what
was
the-
in the stores having visits, talking to people, helping them, coaching them, training them. And I always focused on people first and that training piece. And then the results always just followed me.
Yeah.
That's literally what happened.
Yeah,
Because
so-
I've worked with people that just obsess over the numbers.
Yes.
And they're sitting there every day and just looking at a screen, but they're not actually out there doing the work.
Yes,
You
I
know,
agree.
which can become really stressful.
Yeah, it's really 100%. So that's nice to know that you in that corporate world, you
Yeah.
kind of were.
I always thought, oh, there's something wrong with me. Like, why am I not looking at all
Right.
these numbers? But numbers just go whoo, like this over my head.
Yeah.
Because I came from store. I came from like that customer experience. you
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
keeping it real.
Yeah.
How do you stay positive yourself?
Ooh, that's a
Because
good.
you're teaching the reset to people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But you have a lot on your shoulders. So how do you stay positive?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really I've been leaning heavy in like trusting faith and having a ton of like gratitude.
Okay.
Like I really try to like look at those two as like my main pillars. The gratitude piece of it, I was just on the way down here and I love listening to podcasts and Audible and books like that. And I forgot which book it was, but I don't want to mention it because I don't want to reference it wrong. But he was talking about like sometimes you go through these moments in your life where you're climbing different mountains, right? And when you achieve the climb and you're on top of this awesome mountain that you saw, aka like our salon, and then you're on the top of that mountain, you finally made it to the top, and then you're looking around and you're in Fiji somewhere, you're looking at other mountains, you're like starting to ask questions about what is that mountain over there? Or how long does it take to get there? Can we climb it? Can we like? And then finally someone said to that person, You have to enjoy the moment and where you're at,
Yeah.
and look at what you have
Yeah.
versus looking at all these other things. So I think for me is really slowing down a lot and kind of just seeing everything I have, and that's where the gratitude comes in for me.
Well, because Brendan Burchard, who's a mentor of mine, is like, he talks about the destination being the journey, right? And as humans, we're built for meaningful pursuit.
Yes.
So we're always going to get to that mountain and want to look to the next one,
Yes,
right? Like
yes.
you break through a ceiling, and now all of a sudden that ceiling becomes your floor.
Yeah.
So you're like, what am I going to do next? But I was pulling my little cards out, my inspirational cards the other day, and it was like, the destination is the journey. And I was like, God, that's so powerful.
Yeah. And there's moments like that in our careers that, you forget, there could be little moments, but they were big moments at the end of the day.
Right.
And you're looking back and you're seeing, all those lessons learned. I think is very important. And sometimes we just forget.
What's a really major memorable moment for you in your career then?
Oh my gosh. In my personal, in my career, as far as behind the chair or
just something that just stands out. Maybe is there anything in the book that you wrote about that stands out?
Well, in the book, what always stands out is the cancer, the thing that with my client, Anna Rodriguez. She was amazing. I talked about her all the time. She's doing super well. She's doing amazing. That was the one time I realized how much impact or influence we had as hairdressers with our clients.
Right.
And understanding, giving them the right message, giving them the right products, retail, and doing the full customer service element of it. Really, that's when I really understood, wow, we have a lot of power.
Yeah.
And over somebody's image, but also their self-image and how they see themselves. That was a big moment for me in my career too. I always remember that.
Yeah, huge. Okay, cool. I mean, what's next for Phillip Rosado?
Oh, what's not
Because
what's
you're
not next?
conquering the world with the reset.
The reset is, like I was telling you earlier, I'm continuing to evolve it. Obviously, I would like to, get into creating a reset retreat. I've been thinking a lot about that. Maybe a 2-day weekend somewhere, maybe in Miami.
Yeah.
Maybe you could be a part of it.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about getting, people to kind of build on the reset, kind of be part of the team. I've been obviously thinking about writing more. I want to kind of, now that I understand I can do it, it makes me want to do it more.
Right.
So it's a lot easier.
It's funny how our brain does that, right?
Yeah.
We see something that's so unachievable and it's an obstacle, and then all of a sudden you do it and you go, oh, that wasn't so hard.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so big on what you're doing, because I'm a big believer in our mind creates everything.
Yeah.
And if we can manage that and know that that's a skill set that we can train ourselves, we can actually accomplish a lot more in our lives.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of I had parked a lot of things in my career that I am revisiting.
Okay.
I came out with brushes a couple years ago. Maybe about a year now. So the brush line, I'm gonna add on that. I'm trying to add combs to it. So that's tools. I might add shears to it. So I'm kind of getting to the tool game to eventually get into the retail product game.
Amazing.
And try to, build that organically. But like I said, the reset has taken its own legs, and it's a very powerful thing, and it has impacted so many people that I just love it so much. I just can't
it's you.
Yeah,
I watch you on your social media,
yeah,
and I'm
crazy.
It's you. It's just totally you. It's
Yeah, I just love it. I love people. I love making people feel happy and joy, and I think that's really important. That's very needed in our world right now. And, but not just professionally, but personally. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. To be able to speak and share a message that's really how my life has gone, because you would look at my career and be like, man, you have a really great career, so I'm like, and I started looking back, I'm like, man, it's pretty good. So now I just need to give the secret away, right? So that's what I've been trying to do with the reset.
Right.
You know, but at the end of the day, there's no secret. The secret is you got to work a lot. And you got to do as much as you can. You know, there's literally so much, like you were saying, the mind has a lot of power. And if you stick your mind to it, you can focus on it, you can get it done.
I know, I think people see the end result, right? And think like, oh, it's so great and it's so easy and like, you know, but it's a lot of work.
Oh man,
yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always really rewarding, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, being happy and protecting your happiness is kind of what I'm all about right now. You know.
Yeah.
So
what's a piece of advice that you would give? Let's say somebody watching this sees you, finds your social media, finds your book through this and gets all inspired and is like, you know, I want to open a salon. What advice would you give them?
That's a great...
in this day and age, because it's not the same as it was.
It's funny.
Right?
It's so funny. I think about that question all the time because, and you can ask me that question every hour, and every hour I'll give you a different answer.
Okay.
Because it's so complex now. The main thing is like know your business, know your skill set. You know, the skill set is going to be the number one thing that's going to attract your audience or your people to you. So if you don't have a classic foundation of your skill set, you know, I think right now, I would say, you know, I think a lot of people try to get into the salon space, ownership space too early, and they jump right away into even like a salon suite. That's a version of a salon owner.
Right.
And they don't have a client base out of hair school. So they never mentored under anybody. They don't have the experience. They have to really get that before you start like going for the big stuff.
Right.
And Rome, like, obviously wasn't built in a day. So it's kind of like all these little building blocks, you know, are going to be crucial to your success. The other main thing I always did in the beginning, I took every free class I can get. And again, this was before like really the internet was moving with social media and all that.
Right.
But there was tons and tons of valuable information that you could have gotten from where you get your retail products from.
Yeah.
Free classes. No matter if they were something I did or not, I took it because I knew that I can take away stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big one on that. Like, and now particularly because we have access to so much online. There's YouTube videos. There's like mentorship groups. There's like small business groups. There's like literally 4 years ago when I started this company, I Googled what are the top leadership coaches in the world, and I just started calling every single one of them, and 2 of them picked up.
Wow.
You know, one of them was Steve Jobs' coach, and he's won awards, and I had a 17-minute conversation with him, and I'll never forget it. But I think you have to be willing to put yourself out there, be brave, and just ask the question and ask for mentorship, and people will give you advice. Yeah. Some people will, some people won't. Right. If you get a no, just go on to the next one and you'll get a yes at some point, you know. Right. It's that resiliency. So amazing.
Oh, another good one is always remember why you started.
Always
don't forget
why
you started your business. Why, because in business it moves and it gets so sidetracked so fast that you really forget your why. Like why did I open the salon? Right. You know what I mean? And I think in the reset when I speak on that, people start getting very emotional because they forget. You know what I mean? And that's where the importance of understanding, you know, separating the personal and professional life, you know, and as an owner you kind of it merges together. Yeah, it merges. So I create bridges to really separate everything, understanding when I open that door into the salon, that's a toll booth. And when I go in, then I'm in my salon space, I'm all in there. But when I leave it, that's an exit booth. Or ramp or whatever you want to say. But that's a big one. That's actually what I would tell. That's a good question. That question, if I was going to answer it, why I started a professional development company, because I want to train and impact 1 million leaders, so that the ripple's there. Because I could train sales training, I've done it for years. Right. But if I train the manager of those teams, it's a bigger ripple effect. Yes. Right? Because everybody
every day has a great experience based on the person they work for.
Yep.
I truly believe that.
Yep.
And so that's my due north, and that always keeps me. So I'm going to write that one down.
Yeah.
Because I know that like as things get crazy and things grow, you can just get like bogged down.
You do. Yeah, as humans. You know?
Well, yeah. So thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
making it
Thank
to Miami
you. I appreciate
and having you on the show. Like, and if you're watching this, go grab this book, The Reset. Even if you don't have a salon, it's an amazing book to read.
Thank you.
You'll learn all about Phillip and all the famous people that he helped and what he's doing with salons. So it's a brilliant book. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.